So today on the podcast, I don't actually have somebody I'm technically interviewing. Today's different. We have a co-host, and her name is Floriane Deparis. Did I say that right? And she has been helping me run our 12-week weight loss program. That's not just a weight loss program. It's called Journey to Your Best Self or Journey to the Best You, a weight loss adventure. If you haven't heard me talk to Flo before, we did a podcast like a year or two ago now, like quite a while ago. And we've always talked about working with each other, but finally we collaborated and here we are in this 12-week program. And it's been going super awesome. So what we wanted to do with this is we're going to run a series of podcasts to just address common issues with weight loss and helping you solve problems on your own weight loss journey, really getting to the root of maybe why you've been struggling or why you're having a hard time like stopping the habits that have caused you to gain weight, keep it on and gain more and stuff. So that's our goal. And it's there's a reason why most diets fail. I think over 80% of people who lose weight on a diet gain it back within the first year. And that's something that I always say because there's a reason for that. And it's because you're following external guidance. They're giving you a sheet of paper or a series of instructions to follow these guidelines, whether it's an exercise program, whether you're following like P90X videos or going to the gym with a trainer or following a meal plan or something like that. There's more to it. If you don't develop the foundations and understand why you're emotionally eating, what drives you to skip the gym, skip exercise, avoid things that are going to benefit your health or whatever it may be, eating at night. I don't know if I already said emotional eating. You get the point. You name it. Like, what is the reason for these behaviors that are causing detriment in your life? And so our goal is to help you get to the root of that. And the methods that we teach have helped my clients not only lose weight, but go from never going to the gym to going to the gym consistently every week for months and are still going, and going from eating fast food every night, every other night, like 90% of the time, to cooking their own meals and totally just healing their relationship with food. And the same techniques have even helped my clients quit smoking. So it's pretty powerful, the stuff that you can do with this. I think today we're going to focus on snacking or eating at night. Is that what we're going to do, Flo?
Yeah, we're going to focus on one of the many things that can be addressed with said techniques, which is the snacking at night. And the reason why we want to do this is because this is one of the first issues that one of and many of are the participants in Journey to the Best You admitted struggling with. So it's very relevant. We know for so many people, it's been my case in the past, and I've both come to an understanding of what can be done in terms of nutrition and on a physiological aspect, and what you can do in terms of following a strategy and a plan throughout the day to get to the evening without having big cravings for snacking. Beyond that, there is what's happening emotionally in the moments where you get the craving. And so we're going to cover both.
Awesome. And so do you want to start by going through the beginning, like the process of like maybe why is somebody eating at night to begin with?
Yeah. And let's talk about it in a physiological way. So I'll start. So
Okay.
you what I mean. So what can be happening? A reason why someone can be having cravings and like having this urge to snack in the evening is because they haven't gotten the nutrition they needed throughout the day. So their cells are craving this. Their cells are not nourished enough, and they're sending signals to the brain to get more food in so that they can get a chance to get the nutrients they need. And what I've observed in myself first was that the number one macronutrient that seemed to be the most effective in terms of like getting a sufficient amount of throughout the day, or even starting the day with getting enough of, is protein. So in my experience, getting enough protein, so by enough, I mean about 20 grams minimum of proteins for breakfast within the breakfast, is a really, really effective way to curb cravings at night. Have you experienced anything similar, whether it was with protein or any kind of other nutrient?
Well, yeah, for my own weight loss journey, and for those who have only heard me talk for the first time, 6 years ago, I lost over 100 pounds. I was almost 300 pounds and completely changed my life. Probably have to listen to another podcast to hear the full story for that, but that's just the gist of things. And for me, I noticed that when I changed my eating habits and I started to eat more nutrient dense foods and I guess fill those nutritional deficiencies, I did crave less crap essentially. Like it was easier for me to not only just say no to garbage, but also just not even crave it because I was getting those needs filled.
What nutrient deficiency specifically do you refer to, if you can?
Well, I think honestly, I think for my story, it was probably like a number of things because I was the person that was eating fast food all the time or frozen pizzas all the time. Really, just a lot of food that were sort of just empty calories, you could say.
So when we talk about empty calories, what we're talking about is not a lot of micronutrients. So what I was talking about is a certain amount of protein, which is a macronutrient. But what you're talking about, it sounds like you were lacking micronutrients. So you were probably having enough protein, maybe not, but probably, over the course of a day. Because if you eat, I don't know, like what would you eat in the past for breakfast, like back in the days, if you were to like take your car in the morning and stop at a drive-through or something?
A sausage and egg McMuffin. So those
Okay,
days I would be getting enough protein.
exactly. So that's what I'm talking about. So
But
maybe,
other
but
days it was
it's not
cereal and bagels.
right.
So
Okay,
yeah.
so that's a good example. So on the first day where you on that, let's say it was a Monday. On Monday you stop at a drive-through and you get the sausage and egg wrap or whatever, egg muffin or whatever. Possibly within that you have like 15, 20 grams of protein. So maybe that day at breakfast you actually had enough protein, but the sausage and the bread that's used and the egg even that's used, the quality of that egg, even though it brings you a certain amount of macronutrient, it's not giving you much B vitamins and vitamin C and iron even, and those are all micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. And so by the end of the day, that's what you might be craving. And on the second morning where you ate cereal and bagel, that's mostly carbs. There's not much protein in that. And so on that day, what you might be craving is the actual macronutrient, the protein. So that just illustrates it can be both. And when we do an assessment, when I do assessments with people, I'm trying to detect which one it is, and specifically sometimes which macro and micronutrients. I mean, always. I say sometimes, but it's always. I always get very specific. And yeah, so that's what I mean. Snacking at night can start in the morning. You can start, kicking that to the curb right in the morning by balancing whether it's your protein or increasing your micronutrients by choosing better bread and better meat and adding fruits and vegetables in your breakfast.
Yeah, and the other side of the coin too is stable blood sugar levels, which we'll probably have to do an entire episode on in and of itself because there's a lot to that.
But
But
let's go into
just
it now, though. It's
yeah,
like the second biggest thing.
But
I
just
would say
to,
right after breakfast, that's what you need to focus on the rest of the day.
yeah, insulin sensitivity is huge for weight loss. Um, and just a fun fact, like those people that you see that can eat a bunch of food and never gain weight, they're just really insulin sensitive. They just, for some reason, their bodies are like that. Doesn't mean they're nourished if they're eating crap all the time, but their body can handle the insulin. They're insulin sensitive. And so one way to target weight loss is to increase insulin sensitivity through different lifestyle methods. Like again, we're going to have to do another podcast on this, but I'm just brushing over this quickly. And then of course the other one of the most important methods is being mindful of your food choices, making food choices that will help you to stabilize your blood sugar levels.
Yeah, can you make the link between insulin sensitivity or someone who's desensitized to insulin and blood sugar?
I would say in layman's terms that if you're insulin resistant, how you might notice that is, well, of course, obesity or being overweight. Like most people who are obese are insulin resistant to some degree. And you can also notice if you might be insulin resistant based on how you feel after you eat. Like, do you all of a sudden feel like extremely hungry after an hour of eating or so, or a couple hours? Like, you're just like so hungry, like you're just like really craving food. If you have a food that spikes your blood sugar, for instance, like if you have a Mars bar, for myself, if I have something high in sugar, and I don't have anything that day that helps me to balance my blood sugar levels, I can, because I'm so aware, I can actually feel the high and low of my blood sugar. So of course you eat it, your blood sugar levels spike and your body pumps out insulin to try to regulate it. That's what it does. And then it drops, and then you need and you'll crave more carbs to bring it back to baseline. And so it creates this sort of vicious cycle where you, if you're craving food from your insulin levels dropping, your blood sugar levels dropping, then you're just going to constantly be in this like eating cycle, like where you're just always going to be eating food and stuff like that. On top of the mechanisms that insulin has on the body, and there's like, the GLP-1, like we can get into that stuff. I will do another podcast on the specifics of the mechanisms for those who are nerdy and like to learn that stuff. But just in layman's terms, that's pretty much what happens. And you can balance your insulin levels through foods that you eat. But the thing is with that, it's not really that easy, because once you've caused damage to your insulin production, meaning you've spent a long time living and eating the way you've been eating and living, that you've disrupted your body's ability to produce insulin when needed and to regulate levels and stuff. So, yeah, like you can eat foods that I guess technically are more balanced, or, don't spike your blood sugars as much, but you still have the underlying insulin resistance going on. And so you have to do things to assist with that. And things that can help improve insulin sensitivity are exercise, weightlifting, ice baths, sauna, increasing brown fat production. That's what ice baths do. There's different supplements you can take that help with balancing blood sugar levels and stuff like that, and all the little mechanisms that go along with insulin. And then, of course, there's the food and stuff. So you combine all those things, and then that's where you get maximum results, essentially. So that's just like one of the drivers that can cause you to eat at night. If your insulin levels are fluctuating all day, like at night, you're gonna be super hungry and eat a lot. Especially because carbs just straight up help you sleep too. So your body's naturally gonna want that to fall asleep on top of all the other mechanisms and things that are at play. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'd like to answer my own question as well.
Yeah.
So physiologically, insulin is a key to let sugar enter the cells. The same way that protein is going to be broken down into amino acids and then is going to enter the cell to do their job. And the same as vitamins are going to be entering the cells through certain mechanisms to do their job inside every cell of our body. So for carbs, carbohydrates, the macronutrients, to be broken down and then enter the cell to do their job, we need insulin. Insulin will just unlock a door, so to speak, in the cell so that it can come in. And so when we say insulin resistance, is that when insulin, aka the key, comes to the door to try and open it, it's like it's not working. It just isn't working because there is a resistance to it. It's like, what do you call the like hole in which you put a key?
Keyhole?
A keyhole. Yeah. Simple enough. It's like a keyhole that's frozen in the winter. It's just like it's blocked. That you could put it that way. It's like it just is blocked. And so that's what we mean when we say insulin resistance. It's like the keyhole is just not gonna open the door. It's just not gonna work. And so because of that, the carbohydrate like byproduct, like the smaller particles that need to enter the cells for the cells to do its job, aka producing energy, aka like making you feel awake, is not working. And therefore, if that throughout the day is happening like almost, chronically, I mean, for a lot of people who are overweight, it is happening chronically. That can cause cravings because, like you said, the cell needs the carbohydrates to not only produce energy, but to produce signals to the brain that we can fall asleep. Then at night, if we haven't had those things coming in the cells, we're going to want those things to be able to wind down and to be able to feel like we have what we need to sort of go into our sleep cycle. So that can be a major factor into snacking at night, just like this very deep cellular craving for sugar, which is like, we will get into the emotional factors, but that is not emotional. That is cellular. That is a primal in every way, it's a physiological need and imbalance in this case. And it's really important to address. And like Jordan said, there are many ways, and I have complementary ways that we will get into maybe in the next podcast of this series, because that would be totally appropriate. But yeah, that's my answer to my own question.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the other thing that insulin levels and your ability to get the right micros and macros is your hunger hormones can be messed up. The signaling molecules that tell you when you're full and tell you when you're hungry, that can really get messed up over time, and that's another contributing factor to this. And it's influenced by insulin sensitivity or resistance or whatever. And that
what everybody has to understand is that hormonal balance is always a cascade. It's always a domino effect. A hormone, which insulin is, induces another hormones to be produced, and another hormones to be reduced, and another one to be increased, and another one to be reduced, and it just is a domino effect. And so when we have a problem with one, it has an effect on the whole system, which is comprised of, I don't actually know the number of hormones, but I would say over 20. We have over 20 hormones for sure going on, depending on one another inside the body, and like that goes into the brain as well. So yeah, insulin is one of them, and therefore when that is dysregulated, it is creating imbalances and effects in the sleep cycle, and all of the, we could, there's also like the body temperature and the heart rate, and all of those things are not necessarily solely regulated by hormones, but are partly regulated by.
Exactly. And the whole goal of weight loss, fitness, health, or whatever is balance. Like if you want to thrive, aim for balance. And you can't achieve balance through living in an unbalanced manner. You got to where you were from living in an unbalanced manner. And it's so common for people these days because of all the influencers and, you know, even health specialists and doctors and stuff. They get so stuck on an idea that is an unbalanced idea, and they're not really looking at the long-term effects. And so what happens is somebody might be like, oh, like I'm insulin resistant, I'm eating at night and stuff, so I'm not gonna eat carbs at all. And so they go on a long-term keto or carnivore diet, which actually can increase insulin resistance because your body isn't even used to making insulin anymore when you're not having any carbs, and that can cause a host of other problems. So our approach is to achieve health and longevity in a balanced manner. And, that really is the key to success in health. Like it'll bring you 10 years ahead of everyone else if you just focus on living in a balanced manner. And of course, getting to the root of your habits as to why you're even doing that stuff to begin with. Like that goes well beyond these physiological mechanisms.
Yeah, so let's go there. Let's go there because we go there in Journey to the Best You. So I do want to, like my mentor says, and I see your background, that just makes me want to go swim in it. Like, let's swim around into what it looks like to get to the root, but the root of the problem that is not physiological, and how do we interweave the emotional and mental and spiritual into the physiological? So, but first, I'd like to know your perspective, and I have my own, so I can give it after, but I'd love to know your perspective on why or what are the benefits for people to interweave the mental and emotional with the physiological. What benefits does it have to go beyond the physiological and not only focus on that and not wait to bring it in, not wait years and just do the physiological for years and then being like, but I'm still snacking at night. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, simply, if you're just focusing on the physiological, you're not going to achieve long-term results. And in fact, if you're listening to this, you probably already have tried physiological things. Just focus on the physical to get results, whether that's following a diet or a program or trainer or whatever. And if you focus on the mental, what drives you to eat, because everything that you do, you think about first. And your thoughts drive your feelings, and your feelings drive you to act. And your actions are what produce results. It's literally as simple as that. Don't overcomplicate it. That's all there is to it. So of course, if you focus on why you're doing things and focus on changing your habits by understanding and noticing what you're actually doing in the moment in your day-to-day life and desiring a change and choosing to make a change, that's how you're going to achieve results. And because you have to make those internal shifts first to make those external shifts. I mean, that's been true not just for myself, but for people I've worked with, people I haven't worked with. Like it's just sort of the recipe for success in anything, not just health.
For consistency. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is what we help people with, and we try to make it like I always try to just simplify it because it's like as humans, we just are intelligent and we like to solve complex problems. We also like to create complex problems. The simple answer is usually the right one. That's Occam's razor, if you haven't heard of that before. So just always remember that the simple answer is the right one. And for the stuff that we talk about, don't read between the lines. Like it is what it is. What we're saying is. You don't need to overthink it. If you just do it, you'll be fine. And so I want to play a game with this, Flo. I think this could be interesting. So let's paint a picture for the audience. Okay, you're standing in the kitchen and you just feel pulled to go grab a bag of chips. Like this has happened to me like a million times. I did this so many times without even being aware of it and not even mindful. And it was only when I actually started to notice what I was doing and then consciously like having to like break that pattern and behavior, that's when I started to make a change. That's like the first step to me. This is the process that I've done myself is really like noticing, catching yourself in the moment, like, holy shit, like I'm craving fast food. I'm craving some chips from the cupboard. And
Yeah.
you're not gonna be able to change anything until you're aware of you're doing it. And so that's like the habit portion. But then there's like the emotional portion of what's actually driving you to do the habit. And so it can be different for everybody. So, and it was different for me each time. So it was like either it was, I was feeling lonely that night because like, maybe I was going through a period where I didn't have any roommates or didn't feel like I had anybody close to me or going through a breakup or something like that. And so I'd feel lonely at night. And so food provided that almost like sense of something or being there for me. You know what I'm saying? And other times it was like feeling anxious, like had a hard day with the kids or got in a fight with my partner at the time or even my parents, whatever, like
That's exactly that's exactly what I do. So like just to like stop you there to make to illustrate and go back to like let's play the scenario. So the first thing I would ask you like what happened the hours leading to this desire for a snack, right? And that might be I was anxious because in the hours leading to it, the kids were making me stressed out and or something stressed me out. And so I was anxious. And so then I started to think of the chips and that is because in my brain there is a pathway that was reinforced over time that chips can help me be into my body, feel the chip, like the flavor of the chips, which brings me out of my head, which brings me out of the thoughts that created this anxiety. So, and then in the other situation, it's in the minutes or hours that led to the wanting the chips. I was alone in my apartment because whenever I get home from work around 4:30, there's no one waiting for me at home. I'm by myself. And so by 6:30, I've been a couple hours by myself and I've done stuff and I'm, kind of like I've really have like not much to do at that point and I have no one to talk to.
so you talk to chips.
And yeah, and like it's like you occupy yourself with the chips and like even like it's like this connection with the mouth, and the throat and yeah. And so if I was, yeah, like every time when there is someone bringing this issue of snacking at night, the first step is to reveal the pattern, and the full pattern involves what was happening in the minutes or hours before, and what feeling did that create, and what thoughts this scenario and feel like this mixed bag of life experience, aka like what was happening and feeling, what thoughts was that were coming up because of that. And that's the unconscious part. That's
Yeah.
the part we're unaware of that's happening in our brain, but we're not really paying attention to it, because it goes very fast, and the pathway that associates those thoughts with chips being like the way to get out of those thought patterns is very strong, and therefore it happens very quickly, and that's where it stays unconscious. And so the effect of having a conversation about it, aka a coaching session, is to sort of create this space for slowing down and putting yourself back into the scenario and actually paying attention to what the thoughts are. And so once we reveal the pattern in the coaching session, we do look at what are the thoughts that are associated to the situation that led to the idea of eating, okay? And then outside the coaching session, the work for the individual to take responsibility and actually break the pattern is to practice slowing down in those moments. When the idea of eating chips, or even before that, since the fact that they are now aware of what leads to the feeling of anxiety or loneliness that then leads to the craving of chips, since they are aware of what usually triggers that, that's what we call a trigger, what usually happens in their environment that creates this thought pattern or emotional pattern or both. As soon as that is happening, they can have a slowing down and a regulation that then sort of create this breaking of the pattern. Because, if as soon as you feel the anxiety, or as soon as you see the kids doing the things that usually make anxious, or as soon as you get home and you understand that you will be alone for the evening, you can start to do things differently so that you don't build up the feeling that usually builds up because you're not really slowing down and using tools for that not to happen. So for example, with the kids, it could be anything that helps them regulate so that they don't make you get super agitated. Or it can be asking for help or setting some kind of boundary. And then for the loneliness, it could be, at 5:30 you call someone, or you put a podcast on that really creates this feeling of belonging to a meaningful person. So anything that would help this feeling of connection. And so yeah, that's in short, or I guess it was a bit long, but that's what happens. Yeah, that's what happens in and out of the coaching session for breaking a pattern.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of points there I want to touch base on. Like the first one that you made was part of the reason why we subconsciously want to eat is, well, I guess, of course it brings pleasure and drives dopamine and stuff. But the other is to bring you back to your body, because you're in your mind, not you're almost trying to run away from your emotions. And you're not really processing them in the way that is optimal. So, I mean, let me just ask you, not you, Flo, just the audience in general. When's the last time you actually sat with your emotions? If you're feeling anxious, had a stressful day, I challenge you or invite you to just, next time you're feeling a swirl of emotions, just go sit on your couch, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just feel them. Just feel them and look at what's going on, and then tell me how you feel after. Because it can be a really powerful tool. And especially if you combine that with breathing and just positive self-talk and working yourself through that situation, just knowing that it's going to be okay and stuff like that. There's a number of ways to work through that. But that's just one thing. And then, yeah, the other thing on top of that is, of course, like these are patterns that you've created, these are habits and stuff, and then your patterns and habits are driven by emotional traumas. And so it's our goal as coaches to help you get to the root of those so you can change the beliefs that are behind the traumas and emotions that are driving that behavior. And so that's what we help with. And it's different for each person, it's different for each situation. Some people you got to go deeper than others. Like sometimes these patterns go way back to childhood, like when you're it's the classic example, like you scraped your knee and your parents handed you an ice cream or something like that, and so you got to go back to that first point and and rewrite your story essentially. And Flo, you talk about that a lot, is like reframing the story that you've been telling yourself to change your habits, which is like super powerful. And like these are just a couple of examples we're mentioning. Like I said, like it's going to be different. People's reasons for eating can vary day to day.
But
And
you said it though, like most of them, and I've been doing this for a solid like 2 years. You've named both that are most common.
yeah,
And you said that you experience both, which also most people will like do experience, is a behavior driven by anxiety. And the other one is a lack of connection or
yeah.
loneliness. Those
Um,
like they repeat themselves in so many people, but it's to it's to get to a point where you are able to address them in almost like, I mean, at first the way that it happens the most often, but then start noticing all the ways that it happens, all the ways that you start having anxiety, and all the moments where you feel loneliness, and address them in terms of how does that affect your food choices. And that is a game changing. And that is what we like, what I and now we interweave into the physiological aspect of change.
yeah, that stuff is super powerful and it really does create like huge results. I mean, even just a testimony myself, let alone, the people we work with and stuff. And there's other reasons too, like you might eat at night, like the social ones too, like you have a partner, like, and you guys just like to order food at night, then you're almost both.
Connection thing as well.
Yeah, it's a connection
The
thing.
lack of connection, or it's the fear of lacking connection if you don't participate in that eating behavior. So that is
Yeah.
a connection thing still.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one is just dopamine levels tend to drop at nighttime. So you, on top of everything else, because it's not just one thing, you'll want to boost those levels up and the dopamine levels up by eating food that gives you pleasure, essentially. So that's just another layer to the cake, you know. But by getting to the root of like the patterns and changing your habits and stuff like that, that's how you change everything else. That's how you change the stuff on the physiological level.
But at the same time, like it can be a connection thing as well, the pleasure thing, like the dopamine thing,
Yeah.
because we're social creatures. And I know for myself, and it took me, a few years into my adulthood to really see how much pleasure I experience in connection with others, and how much it's important for me, like not just as something that is like something I have to do. It's like it's just something so emotionally nourishing for me. And therefore, if I don't proactively engage in like connection with others, I can only expect to have low dopamine in my brain.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's where like, it's connecting to others starts with your connection to yourself and healing your relationship with yourself too. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, and I think that ties into what I really wanted to get on like into is that like why we think that we're capable of doing this work with and for others is probably because we have learned how much, breaking disempowering eating habits is linked to connection with others, and how much that is linked to our ability to connect with ourselves, and how much work we both have done on with connecting with ourselves. Like, I think that this this cultivating of authenticity through connecting with ourselves again and again and again daily is a huge reason why we're capable of not doing things, but offering what we're offering to others, doing this work with and for others in terms of guiding them through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also like this is not stuff that happens overnight. Like you're in it for the long term. Like it's a 12-week program, but I mean, people are in it for the second term. Like they're going to be going on 6 months, and whether or not they join the next one, I mean, it's a lifelong journey for them. All the stuff that we're talking about in this is to help support you for the rest of your life. Like this is the stuff that will help you sustain it, and there's just so much power to it. Like I didn't lose 100 pounds in a month. Like it took time, and then and then from then, even once I lost the weight, it took time to refine my relationship to myself. Like I mean, the journey doesn't stop. Like constantly every day I'm working on myself, and noticing, catching myself in behaviors, because life can be really hard sometimes. And like even last night, I literally experienced the snacky at night thing. I just been experiencing something challenging with my oldest son. He's just been having a hard time like with his mental health and his behavioral problems and stuff at school. And my instinct that happened from since I was a kid, I really wanted some damn chips. Like I really wanted chips. And I literally had the door open to get in my car to go to Shoppers and get some chips. And I was like, there's almost like a voice that came in my head that was me. I was like, Jordan, you don't need that. You're fine. You're fine. So I went downstairs and I actually did call a friend. I was talking, well, not really call. I went on Discord and talked to some friends.
Great. That's great. Because yeah, you needed some kind of, did you talk to them about that, or did you talk, about other things?
No, we just hung out, talked,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So like what you needed in that moment was to change your mind,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, and it's true, you can do that with chips by when you have to drive and choose the chips and all, and like then eating them through all of that, you're changing your mind. But there's a more empowering ways to do that. And you have slowed down enough in that moment because you literally physically stopped with the door open instead of rushing in the car. You listened. You were like, what is this thought coming up? What is it that I'm hearing? And it was saying, you don't need that. You're fine. So you slow down enough to hear the thought, the alternative thought. And this is what happens when you've worked through your patterns. There is those other thoughts coming, and there is this inclination to slow down and create the space to hear those thoughts. And then what is it that makes the difference? It's making the choice to honor this other set of thoughts and take the action that is, linked to that thought, which is you need to change your mind. Like, you don't need the chips, but you do need something to change your mind. What can that be? And then depending on your personality and what's accessible to you and what you've learned works well, you do the thing and like you go and get it. And through that process, you empower yourself. And that's like my answer. I think we were talking about this. Yeah, you talked about this. What are the benefits of weaving this work into the physiological? Is that you feel empowered. You feel empowered in those moments, or you empower yourself. And then in the hindsight, you were like, you when you reflect, you're like, yeah, that made me feel empowered. You don't necessarily like think of it in the moment, but yeah, doing the coaching sessions can help you see the blind spots. And once you see the blind spots, it gives you the opportunity to have alternative thoughts. And then once you get to the point where you are you understand that you need to slow down for those new thoughts to come up, and you listen and you take the action, you feel empowered. And that's what people like. That's not me thinking that this is what happened. It's people reviewing their work with me and being like, when I ask them, like, what do you think others can expect? They say they can expect feeling empowered. And that's why.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's all about. Flo and I both are all about empowerment because that's why it's called Journey to the Best You, because we literally we want the title to empower you to be that best version of yourself right now. You don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to do any meditation or whatever. Like, you can choose to be that person now and then act from that space. And joining programs like this is a representation of that choice you've already made for yourself. And yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, and like going through this process, learning these tools, losing weight, it doesn't get rid of the obstacles in life. It there's things that have happened to drive you to overeat and eat crappy foods or whatever will still happen. You just now have the tools to deal with them. When an obstacle gets in your way, and it's the same thing, like you're lifting weights, and it makes you stronger and you're able to lift heavier things. And so all of a sudden, like, I don't know if like a rock falls from the sky and blocks you from walking into your house. Well, now you're strong enough to move that rock, whereas before you couldn't. Or, and stuff like that. And this stuff too, it's like it's an ongoing journey. Like, it's not something that you learn and just stop completely. Like, this is a practice. Practice means something that you do repeatedly. And you don't go to the gym to be able to lift 200 pounds and then stop, lift 200 pounds. I'm going to stop now. Because what happens? You're going to go back to not being able to lift very heavy weights. And it's the same stuff with these tools. Like, if you stop using them, then you gotta have to like gain them back, because essentially what would happen is you would start to instill old habits. And the more you do a habit, the harder it gets wired into your brain, the deeper it gets wired into your brain, and the harder it is to change. So that's why you have to constantly like act from that place and constantly utilizing these tools, so that you can keep these neurons in place in your brain. Like, keep that all that information stored in your little hard drive called your brain. And that's why we again why we have like the 12-week program. It's not like a 1 month challenge where you're just calorie restricting to lose weight. It's stuff that can help you forever. Anything to add, Flo? Do we cover everything?
Maybe we can just tell quickly how people can choose to jump in this journey with us.
Yeah, so if you want to join, we'll include links in the show description and emails and basically every method for you to contact myself and or Flo. And what we'll do is we'll have a free consultation with you and answer any questions and help you with anything that we can. And I guess that's the start. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like what we mean by answering this question is like let you know what we would focus on and how everything works and what you can expect and what commitment is kind of coming with it, which is flexible and not too much. There's spaciousness and flexibility embedded in it. So yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out if there is any strings of resonance with that, because we know that people, and like, just so it's clear, we know that people who might want to join, it's not their first rodeo and they've already been on the journey. And so we are going to meet you where you're at, and not necessarily see you as a beginner, and just like see you where, just take it where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah, and it depends on the person. Generally, it's for people who are serious about making changes in their life. But we have people who are just beginning on their journey. You know, of course, they've tried stuff before, and we have people that have sort of already been on it that just want that extra support. So it kind of varies on who joins, but generally, the common denominator is that they're all like serious about making changes. So if that's you, reach out to us. If you're looking to lose weight, get fit, and change your life, and you're sick of trying things and falling off the wagon, whether it's a new diet or exercise program, Journey to the Best You, a weight loss adventure, just might be the perfect thing that could suit your needs. It's a 12-week online group program with breakthrough coaching calls and everything you need to make huge shifts in your life. Shifts that have helped our clients lose weight, quit smoking, and go from never going to the gym, always eating crappy food, to completely reversing that. So if this sounds like it's for you, we're offering a Black Friday sale from this Friday until the next Friday. So that's 7 days for only $300, and the price will be going up to $900. So if you're thinking about making a change, join now. The program starts in January, but if you sign up now, you get a huge discount. Oh, and did I mention that it is covered under naturopath with most insurance companies? So reach out if you're ready to be the best you.